All right, welcome everybody to the Fighting Chance Fantasy Week 12 college football betting show. As you can see, I am solo tonight. My guy Dan Hickman is traveling back from the great state of North Carolina. He's traveling back home, so safe travels to Dan. Safe travels to him and his family as they get back home safe and sound. He was just in the great state of North Carolina, which is where I'm from. We both we both love the great state of North Carolina. He got to go to the state game. Unfortunately, they blew a big fat egg to Boston College, which is a very sour taste in both of our mouths, but especially him since he was out there with his family. And he also got to go to the Hurricanes and Colorado Avalanche game, which is awesome for him because he's a big Avs fan, and they ended up beating my Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm happy that him and his family got to have a good trip out to the great state of NC. He's traveling back right now, so he won't be able to join the show with me today, but it's the least I could do because the last 2 weeks he has filled in for me as I had COVID and I lost my power because we had a big storm here right before the show went live last week. So Dan did a great job filling in both of those times. And now I will fill in for him. And then next week, Dan and I will be back together. I know next week is Thanksgiving. We'll figure out what day we're going to do it, but we'll be back together at our normal selves, us two doing the show. So Dan is the one that usually has the recap board and does all of that. I don't have that, but we will recap where we're at on the season next week with our units and records and everything. I can tell you that Dan went 2-1 last week. He has just been charging along. He's been killing it. He's been holding up the group as I went for another goose egg and to 0-3 last week. So he has really been the one holding us up. But hopefully things turn around. It's been a rough college football season for myself, but we power through and we keep on going. And today is going to be a fun show, and today is going to be where we bounce back here. But a good 2-1 for Dan. So what we'll do is we'll do it how we usually do. I'll give a pick, and then I'll read out Dan's picks. He sent me all 3 of his picks, so I'm still going to give out his picks that you guys can tail, and then I will give out mine as well. I'm going to start with Dan's first pick, and then I will go to mine. His first pick of the day. So we're getting right into it again. This is the Fighting Chance Fantasy Week 12 college football show. You can follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Dan's first bet is UTSA and Rice over 55.5 or over 56. He said anything over that and a lot of 56.5s out there, which he doesn't like as much, because obviously major key, like it just passed the major key number there. But he said, look around, see what you can get. Obviously, if you can get over 55.5, that would be ideal. And I would also advise to get on this as soon as possible. Even if you see an over 56.5, I personally still like it there. And I know Dan said he does too. He just likes it more at 55.5. But I would get on that 56.5 if you can't find better, because I think by game time tomorrow, that's going to be at 57. That's going to go up. This is a game that is really showing and has all the mechanisms to go over. Dan said there's a lot of really good the amount of bets versus the amount of money coming in on this over. So just a lot of things are adding up for why this is a great play. If anybody's followed UTSA or Rice this year, you guys would know why. These teams are over teams. They don't play a lot of defense. UTSA is a phenomenal story. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Frank Harris that nobody really talks about, but he can sling the ball like no other. So Dan's first pick is UTSA and Rice over 55.5 or 56 if you can get it at that. Just shop around and try and get the best number that you can get, obviously. So for my first pick, I am going with Liberty -10 against Virginia Tech. Look, Liberty's a really good football team. They're a really well-coached football team. They lost a shocker last week to UConn, yet they outgained the Huskies by nearly 160 yards. All right. They gained 29 first downs compared to UConn's 15. The Flames just shot themselves in the foot over and over and over, and it cost them the win. Look, great story by UConn. They're doing everything they can. Today they got bowl eligible. Jim Mora is just he's the first coach in a long time that can actually win with that program, and props to them. And let's be real, we kind of saw that coming. Dan and I texted about it. It was a letdown spot for Liberty. They just went on the road and beat an SEC team in Arkansas. They were going to not show up to UConn after beating Arkansas. Now they've lost, and now they're playing an ACC team. There's nothing that Liberty loves more and head coach Hugh Freeze loves more than beating up on the big brothers, right? They're Liberty. Everyone says, oh, you're Liberty. They love going into these SEC and ACC schools and winning. All right. Last week, Liberty ran for 267 yards on 6.5 yards per carry, and Liberty is on a 14-2 against the spread run after rushing for more than 200 yards. So after rushing for 200 yards, they've gone on to cover the spread 14 out of the last 16 times. They get the momentum going on the ground, and it carries over. The Flames run the ball extremely well, and they're just solid defending it as well. As I said, head coach Hugh Freeze, huge coaching advantage here. Hugh Freeze is by far the better coach in this matchup. He knows how important this game is for his program moving forward. And Virginia Tech is a 2-8 team and having one of the most disappointing seasons, really one of the most disappointing last couple seasons ever since the Frank Beamer era has ended. All right, so this is a Power 5 traveling to a non-Power 5 school. What does Virginia Tech have to play for? They can't get bowl eligible. They're 2-8. To me, this has a quit team written all over it, while Liberty still has everything to play for. They can get a better bowl game. This is good for their program to beat a team like Virginia Tech. I love this. It's a big spot for Virginia Tech to bounce back after a sleepy spot against Utah. It's a big spot for Liberty to bounce back after a sleepy spot against UConn. And again, I just don't think Virginia Tech has anything to play for. And I think that Liberty still has a ton to play for. 10 is a big number. I know it, but Liberty's the better team. They've got the better coach. They've got the better players. And frankly, they still care this late in the season. Give me Liberty Flames -10 over Virginia Tech. So far we've got Dan, UTSA Rice over the total, 55.5, 56. Try and get it as best as you can, as early as you can, because that is going to keep going up. Myself, Liberty -10. All right, for Dan's second play of the weekend. Again, you guys are watching the Fighting Chance Fantasy Week 12 college football betting show. I am Kayvon Ezami, going solo dolo tonight as my guy Dan is traveling back from vacation in the great state of North Carolina. So Dan's second bet is Navy +16.5. Look, I'll tell you one thing. Working with Dan these last couple years, I know Dan really well, and what he loves to do is he loves to hit on the hot hand. When this guy finds a team that wins for him, he rides it, and it's a smart move. Last year, he rode, now, of course, I'm forgetting the team that he was betting on all the time, and he's going to get mad at me because I should not be forgetting this team. There's a team in the Conference USA that he would always ride, and they did great for him. Last week, what did he do? He bet Navy against Notre Dame. A great spot for Navy. Notre Dame just beat biggest win they've had in a long, long time. There it is, UTEP. UTEP, of course. Thank you, Dan. I knew you would chime in. My guy Dan is in the chat, even though he's traveling right now. He's in the chat. UTEP was his team last year. And listen, last week, Notre Dame beats Clemson. Biggest win for Marcus Freeman and that new regime in Notre Dame. It was a great spot by Dan to go with Navy, right? And now he's going to go right back with Navy because he's looking at the same exact storylines here. UCF just had a massive win against Tulane, a win that's probably going to give them a New Year's Six Bowl, which is huge. And now they're 16.5-point favorites against Navy. It's hard to get up for a game like that. So Dan's taking Navy +16.5. Navy, he says here, Navy notoriously slow but effective ground game on offense, and this QB may throw it well when necessary. Navy has an elite rush defense that checks all the boxes versus a run-first UCF team coming off big back-to-back road wins. Navy reminds me a lot of the BC team I saw upset my Wolfpack in person. As I told you, he was in person last week for that. Absolutely zero quit in this team for what it's worth. It's Navy, baby. It's Navy. They represent our country, and they do play some sloppy football at times, but that is a big number for a UCF team, as Dan said, that is riding high right now. Guys, I mean, I can't say it enough. They just won back-to-back games, and they basically just wrapped up the conference and the New Year's Six Bowl. As long as they don't slip up, they just need to get out of this game with a win. That is all that matters right now. And right now, Dan is riding Navy plus 16.5 for his second bet. All right, moving on to my second bet. I'm going to do something here that Dan's going to laugh at me about, because this is something that has bit me in the ass numerous times. And, I just cussed because it's pissed me off a little bit. But it's also a love-hate relationship, and this is why. Dan and I both have a future ticket on TCU to win the Big 12, which is looking great right now, right? I mean, they're undefeated. They've already clinched themselves in the Big 12 championship. It's great. I bet throughout this run, though, a couple times against TCU, because there's just spots where you have to say, oh my goodness, TCU can't keep winning. And they keep winning. I'm going to do it again. And it might bite me in the butt again, but I am going to take Baylor plus 2.5. If you can find a plus 3, I would love that so much more. It opened at plus 3. It's down to plus 2.5. I don't think you're going to be able to find a plus 3, but if you can, snag that up. I love the plus 3, but I'm going to take at the plus 2.5 here. Look, TCU is a phenomenal team. Okay, they are a phenomenal team, but this is college football. This doesn't happen what they are doing. They keep going into spots, and Dan just said in the chat he leans Baylor here too, which I love that. They keep going into these spots where they're supposed to lose, and they keep winning. And you know what? They might win again on Saturday. But this is all the makings of them finally slipping up, and this is why. Baylor just got their butts kicked by Kansas State. One of the worst losses we've seen by Baylor in a long, long time. Dave Aranda is a hell of a coach. He's not going to accept that type of loss. He knows how to coach against teams like TCU. TCU just went on the road to Texas, one of their biggest wins of the season in Texas, 7-point underdogs. Everybody was betting against them, and they still won. Now they have to go back on the road to Baylor, hostile environment, 12 o'clock kick, so it's not like they have this big hype up game at 7:30 that they get all hyped up for. No, it's going to be a sleepy 12 o'clock game. And Baylor can run the ball. And the one thing that TCU has an issue with, even though they did so well last week doing this, and maybe they'll do it again, but they have an issue stopping the run. And I think Baylor's going to be able to run all over TCU. I think Dave Aranda is going to come up with schemes to get Max Duggan in trouble, to put pressure on Max Duggan, make him throw a couple turnovers. And I'm going to do one last time. I am going to ride with the Baylor Bears plus 2.5. If you can get them at plus 3, that's great. I think they might win outright. I think they do win outright, but I do think no matter what, it's going to be a close game. So obviously the plus 3 is better in that favor, but I'm going to ride with Baylor plus 2.5 here for my second bet. All right. So you guys are listening to the Fighting Chance Fantasy Week 12 college football betting show. My name is Kayvon Ezami. You can follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. I usually do this with my guy, Dan Hickman, who is out of town right now, heading back home, and he is in the chat listening. So Dan, we appreciate you tuning in. So far, Dan's bets are UTSA and Rice over 55.5, 56, 56.5. Obviously, the better number you can get, take it, because you don't want it to go too much higher. And I would take it as soon as you can, because that is going to go up to 57 by game time. He also has Navy plus 16.5. Great spot here once again for Navy. Bad spot against for UCF. I have Liberty minus 10, and I have Baylor plus 2.5. And for Dan's best bet, he is taking the UCLA Bruins plus 2.5. That's actually coming down too. I think there are still some plus 2.5s out there. So definitely try and get that, but that's coming down. There's a lot of sharp money coming in on UCLA. I would get that as soon as you can, because that might be down to 2, even 1.5, 1. I'm seeing a lot of 2s everywhere right now. So get that as soon as you can. But Dan is on UCLA plus 2.5. Best number you can get. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a couple odds places. There's actually a +3 out there too. So mainly it's all +2s. There's a couple +2.5s and there's one +3, but mainly it's all +2.5. So get that as soon as you can, because as you're seeing, it's going down to +2 now. Look, Dan says here, I personally hated as a fan for what this is funny that he's going here because he's right. I personally hated as a fan for what they pulled in the Holiday Bowl last season, which he's right. They pulled out last second again when they were about to play NC State, which is messed up because State was about to have a 10-win season if they played and beat UCLA, but they pulled out the last second, and he has a good point there. But that's college football betting for you. Remove your personal biases when possible. Spot on there. They have the better defense in a odd home and home sort of crowd versus USC. Chip Kelly is 9-0-1 against the spread as a short dog in conference play. Wow, that is a phenomenal stat right there. Chip Kelly 9-0-1 against the spread as a short dog in conference play. Plenty of turnover regression ahead for a luck box USC team. Give me Bruins here and money line sprinkle. He's on the right side for this one, guys. This is going to be a really fun game. It really is. It's going to be a shootout, I think, but he is right. They have the better defense. They are at home, even though a lot of people want to make fun of UCLA. The game is sold out, so it should be pretty heavily of a decent home crowd there. And UCLA's off a tough loss right now. They're going to want to end their season on a high note, and the best way to do that, knock their rivals out of the playoff picture. USC has been one of the luckiest teams in the league, as Dan just alluded to. Eventually, that's going to run out. As he said, he is on the UCLA Bruins to win outright, but obviously take them against the spread for a little bit of cushion. So that is Dan's best bet of the week. For my best bet, I'm going to go with a line here that is really, really confusing. And it might be a trap. It might be, something that I'm missing, but I can't stop thinking about this line. And that is a rivalry game. I'm going with Oklahoma State +7.5 against Oklahoma. First of all, Oklahoma should not be favored by 7 or 7.5 against any team out there. Okay. They just lost to West Virginia. Okay. Sorry, West Virginia fans out there, but that's a bad football team right now. They fired their AD. Who knows what's going on with their head coach? West Virginia's in a flux right now, and they just lost to that team. Now they're playing their rivals. Mike Gundy has been on record numerous times about how pissed he is that they are leaving, that Oklahoma is leaving the Big 12, and how it's ending a rivalry. This might be the last time that we have a bedlam battle. This might be the last time that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma play again, because they're not going to continue this game once Oklahoma goes to the SEC. So Mike Gundy is telling his team that they're running away from this conference. They don't want to play you anymore. And they're a bad team this year, yet they're still 7.5-point favorites. Mike Gundy's getting his quarterback back in Spencer Sanders, which is a huge plus. I think that Oklahoma State has a legit chance to win this game outright. I really do. Oklahoma has showed me nothing on paper or on the field or in the coaching box to tell me that they are a better football team than Oklahoma State. We have to remember, I know Oklahoma State has really slipped up here at the end, but they were undefeated just a couple weeks ago. And then everything turned to crap for them once Spencer Sanders got injured. But they were undefeated. They were up on TCU at halftime. Spencer Sanders got injured. Everything went to hell for them. Spencer Sanders is back now. They are a better football team than Oklahoma. Frankly, they are a better coach than Oklahoma. And they have the thing in college football that I think is so valuable. A lot of people don't like to cap this way. I do. And that is the situation they have, the momentum that they have, the storyline that they have, which is this is their rival that they might never play again. They're going to want to beat the crap out of them. And I think that they have a really good chance to win this game outright. But all we need to do is just have them cover by 7.5. I think they win, but they can all they have to do is lose by 7 or less, and we win this bet. So give me Oklahoma State +7.5 in the Battle of Bedlam. Quick recap here before we get on out of here. Dan is on UTSA Rice over 55.5, or the best number that you can get. Navy plus 16.5 against UCF. UCF coming off some huge wins recently. Navy looking to cover once again as a big underdog, just like they did last week against Notre Dame. And his best bet is UCLA plus 2.5, or the best number that you can get. For myself, I am on Liberty minus 10. I am on Baylor plus 2.5, and I am on Oklahoma State plus 7.5. That is all, ladies and gentlemen. Quick and easy show. I know it's unfortunate the last couple weeks that we haven't both been back here together. Lots going on, but I appreciate Dan filling in for me last couple weeks, and I'm here to fill in for him this week, and hopefully next week everything will be good, and we'll be back together as we round out the college football season. It is crazy how time flies. We are already next week into conference games. It sucks, but let's enjoy it as it's still here. Let's go on a run here, all right? Dan's carrying the show. It's time for me to lift us up, and we end this season strong. We'll be back next week. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Travel safe. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend of college football.